Today, you're going to learn all about Hexo. Oh, and hey, I'd like to point out this video's awesome sponsor, Skillshare.com, which offers thousands of classes in design, coding, business, and more. For instance, you're about to watch my video on blogging software, but you could also watch this course on the topic at Skillshare. Now, Skillshare is just $10 a month, but if you're the first 200 students to use my very exclusive link below in the description here in YouTube, then you get the first 2 months free. All right, so let's get started. Gary Simon of Coursettra here. So Hexo touts itself as being a fast, simple, and powerful blog framework. All right, so we're going to take a look at what exactly Hexo is. I'm going to show you how to get it installed, how to use it to generate posts and pages, as well as how to customize the themes. All right, so for today's question, for design, and oh, by the way, this comes from user Skyscream on the Discord server. For design, do you use free software like Gimp and Inkscape or paid ones like Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator? Leave your comment below. I'll let you know my thoughts. I'll answer it as well in the very first pinned comment. Make sure you subscribe and let's get started. All right, so to get started, first we're going to go ahead and integrate or install rather through the NPM, the Node Package Manager, the Hexo CLI. So NPM I for install, G for global, which means it'll install it on your machine so you can access it from any directory. Hexo CLI. All right, so run that command, and I'm going to run it now. And just for those of you who may be absolutely beginners to NPM, if you do not have or you cannot run the NPM command, you have to install Node.js at nodejs.org. Install it, reload your command line or your console, and you'll be able to run the following command. Now, once it's done, we're going to use it to install or start a new Hexo-based project. All right, so you have a new blog or whatever. This is what you would run. So you would run Hexo. This is how you reference it, and then init, and then the name of the folder this will install into. So we'll just call it my Hexo or Hexo. I don't even know what the heck it would be pronounced. I think it's Hexo. I'll just call it Hexo. All right, so my Hexo blog. So it's going to go through this. It's just going to take a little bit of time installing everything, and hopefully everything goes smooth for you. And once it's done, doesn't take too long, we'll CD into my Hexo blog. All right, and then I'm going to open up my code editor with code period, and that is the command for Visual Studio Code. It's telling me to upgrade. This is a free code editor, very popular from Microsoft, called Visual Studio Code. Go ahead and download it if you wish. All right, so before we take a look at the file structure, I'm going to go back here real quick, and I'm going to run Hexo server. All right, so this is going to launch a server at localhost 4000. All right, and this is your project right here. So it's not the prettiest. I wish they would have chose maybe a little bit of a different blog, but that's fine. Everything here is entirely customizable though, and we'll get into that. But the very first post, hello world, this is coming from, and let me get up our code editor. This is coming from our source, and you'll see hello world. So by default, when you use the Hexo CLI to create a new project, it by default creates a post, like a blog post, and this is what it's called, hello world.md. So up here you have just different properties that are associated with this. This front matter, as it's called, if we go and refer to the documentation, so we'll come here to doc, we'll see the front matter. This will provide you with all the possible front matter that you can use when it comes to creating a blog post or a page. So this is going to tell you all these are things that you can use here for the front matter. Okay, let's come back down here. So the way this is all structured is you have a themes folder right here. By default, you're using the landscape theme. All right, but you can create your own or modify this existing theme, to suit whatever you want. Coming in here is the source. This is where you're going to find both your posts and your pages, and we're going to generate each of those in a second. And then over here we have scaffolds. And this scaffolds is basically whenever you generate a post or a page or what's called a draft, it will look at this information here when generating that file. So let's go ahead and create our own post to see how this actually works. So we'll go back to our command line here. Oops, wrong section. All right, and I'm going to just start a new console here so I can leave that running. CD code my Hexo blog. All right, so the command to run or generate a new blog post, say you have a new post you want to make or whatever, would be Hexo new, and we'll just call it the name, whatever you want. If there's spaces in it, you can just put quotes around it. I'm just going to put my blog post 1. All right, and it's going to tell you it created this following file. So inside of posts, it created this my blog post 1. I'll just go ahead and just copy this part real quickly just so we can have some content. And of course, obviously, as you can see, you're rating everything in Markdown, which is nice and handy. So remember when I mentioned the scaffolds here? So the post is corresponding here to this. It just takes this front matter and just imports it up at the top of my blog post 1 or any future blog posts here. So you can give it tags if you want up here. And so if we go back to our console here, our command line, we could see now we have my blog post 1. Very, very simple. So we click on it, we get access to it specifically up here in the URL, and there we go. We can also see by automatically it's generating the recent blog posts over here. Awesome, awesome stuff. So also, what about generating a page? Like if because right now there's just a home and an archives page right here. Let's say we want an about me page or some other contact page that's not really considered a blog post. All right, well, we'll go back to our command line here, and we'll put Hexo new, and this time we're going to specify a type, page, and then the name. So we'll say about. All right, so now it creates, because we specified a page, it's going to create a folder inside of it with an index.md file. So now if we go back to our editor, we'll see we have an about and our index. All right, so this is all about me, man. Yeah, cool stuff. All right, so we'll save that. All right, so then if we want to add this to the top header where it has home and archives, and we want to put in the about as well, we're going to visit our themes, and we'll find we have a config inside of landscape, the one we're using, a config.yml file. And you can see up here where it says header, we have our home and our archive. So it probably makes sense to put an about like right after home. So /about, that is the name of the folder and the associated URL with that about page that we just created. So now if we save and we go back, we'll see about is now there. Awesome stuff. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to create your own theme. We're not going to create one from scratch. We're just going to use this one as a base in order to customize the header portion. Let's say we want to really simplify this header and change it up quite a bit. I'll show you how to do that, and in doing so, you should have pretty good confidence going forward, making your own adjustments here. So what we'll do is, the way we do this, and this is all in the documentation, by the way, is I'm going to open this up and reveal it in Explorer, and I'm just going to copy this and then paste it, and I'm going to give it my own name. So this is the name of your theme, could be the name of your site, whatever. I'll just call this the name of my upcoming YouTube channel, Slant. How about that? All right. So inside of Slant now, if we want to tell, first we have to direct the configuration file down here and tell it which theme to use. And you use the name of the folder name that you gave it. So config.yml, I believe it's at the bottom. Yep, right here. The theme is not going to be landscape, it's going to be Slant. So we save that. And because we replicated it, we're going to get the same thing in the browser if we refresh it. All right, so inside of here, all themes have to have a languages, layout, script source section. And if we go over here, it's probably worth taking a look at the themes section. it's going to tell you exactly what you need. So you're also going to need this config.yml file. So this is all that's required. All right. This theme that they're using, I mean, there's a lot of different files that's associated with it, but yours could be a lot more simple based on your needs. So for instance, if we take a look at like our source file, this is where, or source folder, this is where you store your CSS file. And this has, this is using stylus, so it's the .styl. We'll work with that in a little bit, but you'll see how different it looks compared to regular CSS. Although you can still write regular CSS in stylus. And then also coming out of here, you would also put any, if you have any type of JavaScript that's necessary for your, the front end of your site, you'd put it in here. They have some stuff happening here associated with their search. They're also using Fancy Box, so they've included that here. Again, it's not required. It really depends on the needs of your theme. Taking a look at this, we also have layout. All right, so the index.ejs, they're using these extensions. You can use other types of extensions. I believe it's mentioned here. You can use .swig for Swig templating engine, Hamel, Jade, or Pug. I mean, you can use any of this. So the very first thing is probably going to notice you're a little bit confused. So let's say, for instance, we want to change the header. So the header, it's obviously present on all pages right here. As you can see, we can switch to any page. So I would target the page that has whatever it is you want to edit. And so the index, isn't necessarily what you might think it is. Judging this, you might think this is the index, .html. But you just have to ask yourself what it is that you want to modify. In our case, it's the header. So if you look at the partial section in here, you'll find a head file. And inside of here, you can see a lot of different markup. But as you can see, this is the head section of the website. And then we'll see in here is the actual header. This is the section where we're going to want to modify if we want to make adjustments to the header. And as you can see, they have conditional logic in here. And really, it's not a matter of completely having to understand everything before you start beginning. You can really sit here and dissect exactly what's happening and pick and choose what you need based on your needs. So in our case, for instance, I would like just a simple header where this logo is on the left, and then this navigation is on the right, and then drastically bring it up, decrease the height of this area right here. So to do that, all I would do is probably get rid of a lot of this HTML because a lot of it is unnecessary. So what I would do is probably keep everything from, right there. I'm going to get rid of this. We're going to keep the header ID, and then we're going to have the logo because I mentioned we want the logo to be the first thing on the left. And so we'll keep that. And then also I will figure out what's coming up next. Subtitle, I don't have a subtitle, so we can just get rid of all that. All right. And then the next thing I want is, yes, the nav section. So I'm going to get rid of these two lines. And then I don't need a sub-navigation or a search. And that should be pretty good. Let's see here. We're going to get rid of that div and this div. All right. And for this element, I'm just going to make this a nav. I'm going to get rid of this. And then I'm going to use an unordered list for this navigation. We'll put that right here. And then inside of this, this is obviously going to iterate through all of the navigation links that are configured, that are specified in the config.yml file for this particular theme. So we'll put in inside of here a list item and then and that tag right there. And that's all our template needs to be. Now, of course, if we go back and we refresh this, yep, it's not working. Well, I want to make sure I did everything correctly here. Make sure I save this. We have our theme saved as slant. I'm not exactly sure if the server has to be stopped, so let's do that again. We'll go back. Okay, there we go. So I just had to restart the server. Now it's completely broken. That's because we're going to need to adjust the CSS or the stylus. All right, so let me move this over just a bit, and then we'll get our section over here. So let's hit Control B. Excuse me. And now wow, that hurt my back. I'm getting old. Sucks. So anyhow, coming down here, we're going to find our CSS. So our source CSS, partial, and header. There we go. All right, so now it's just a matter of using, hit Control B here. Somebody told me there's a real quick shortcut for splitting windows and windows. I forget what it is. I should research that. All right, so anyhow, what you need to do, depending, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you want to adjust? Or what do you want to modify? And with that said, if we hit Control-Shift-I here in Chrome, and we hit this little selector, we can begin to find where these elements are in the HTML. So, for instance, we'll see that the header is this big, large thing. That's the first thing that we need to address. And the rule set's right here in the stylus. So we can start to make adjustments. First of all, I don't want a border. And second of all, we're going to give it a background color of black. All right. All right, there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to add some padding. So 10 pixels on the top and bottom, 20 pixels on the right and left. All right, so there we go. And then I'm going to make it a display grid because right now it's sitting beneath it. I need to go over here. So we'll use the CSS grid to structure that. So we'll do display and then grid template columns. I'll say 30% and auto for the second column. So the logo will only take up 30% of the available width. And then now it's still not going to work, apparently. Oh, yeah, it will. There it goes. Now we have to position it to the right. So this is all just CSS grid stuff at this point. We can get rid of these two right here. And what we'll do now is find this section, or we'll define a nav section. So nav. And that's simply because, oh, we don't need that. I forgot that's regular CSS. Because we want that content to be situated to the right, we find it, and we'll see it's our nav element that we have added. All right, so to do that, we just put in justify self right. All right, and when it does that, it makes it a vertical menu for some reason. So I can just do real quickly ULLI. So this is a nest basically. And we'll put in display inline. All right, and then finally the height. The height is all crazy looking, way too high. So looking at this, where is this coming from? The height is 300 pixels, and we're just going to remove that. Where is the height at? Oh, it's right up there. Am I blind? There we go. Save it. And there we go. So I dramatically adjusted the header based on just modifying this, and then that's how you can make your modifications very easily. What I would recommend if you're new, probably start off by just replicating that landscape theme folder because it has everything you need functionality wise. Then if you need to make, drastic adjustments, you can do exactly what I just did here in Going. So you would use this, and what we did to create your blog posts with a Hexo new and then your blog post title, and then to create pages, Hexo new page and then page title. And then what about deployment? Well, first let's talk about generating the site. By default, if we maximize this real quick, we'll see there's no area or no folder to upload if you wanted to deploy this or whatever. So if you want to create a build of your site, we would run Hexo and then generate. All right, so now it is, if we go back, we'll find that it has created a public folder. And so this public folder, for instance, if we go back to the console one more time, cd public HTTP server, we'll create a HTTP server. This is mimicking as if you were uploading this directory to a web server somewhere. You'll see it works right here at port 8080. And everything will work just fine. Good stuff. All right, so now there's also a deploy command that you can run. I'm not going to cover deployment simply because there's so many different areas that you can deploy to and services, but I will show you the documentation real quickly on that. And if we go to deployment, we'll see you simply have to run Hexo deploy, but first you need to set up and modify some of your settings in the config.yml file. So a valid deployment setting must have a type field. So type would be Git. So if you want to deploy to, I believe it would be GitHub Pages, then you would deploy to that. You would have to first install this right here, and it runs you through all of the necessary options. So Heroku, Netlify, rsync, OpenShift, FTP. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, pretty comprehensive. All right, hopefully you found that helpful. Make sure you answer today's question, which is for design, do you use free software like Gimp or Inkscape, or paid ones like Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator? All right, let me know, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new tutorial. Bye.